Hey there, film fans. Before we start the show this week, we just wanted to acknowledge that this has indeed been one of the most tragic weeks in U.S. history. On the back of the COVID-19 crisis, in which we've lost over 100,000 Americans, we now find ourselves staring at the truth that a single life does matter.
We disagree about many things on this show. The one thing we all agree on is that Black lives matter. There will be no peace until there is justice. Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies new and old with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right, and to avoid any lazy negativity, we are making this a drinking game.
Wait, a what? A what?
That's right. I started before we recorded. This is a drinking game. That's right, friends at home. We are having fun. We're going to be talking about some really, really, really good movies. But just as a reminder, we always try to talk with a positive critical eye so that we don't sound like jaded wannabe cinephiles. So anytime you hear this sound, we said something negative and we therefore have to drink for it. And that goes for you at home. Play along, grab a beer. Let's get to it.
So pour yourself a glass, join us, and give it up for some films we love, obviously a lot.
Yeah.
And you're in for a treat tonight as we watch John's head explode, trying to decide between Lord of the Rings and Mission Impossible.
Oh, I'm so frustrated. I'm so scared. I'm actually scared. I don't know about you guys.
I'm expecting you to go full scanners.
All right, my friends. So just to catch us up really quick, everybody, we have spent the majority of the coronavirus quarantine, which apparently is over, even though it's not. We have spent a lot of time. We decided that we would watch, I believe, about 17 film trilogies or franchises in deciding which we felt was the greatest film trilogy or franchise of all time. Yes, Al's uncle, of all time. Of all time, specifically in the English language canon. We watched so many. We have listened to the films that you were furious that we snubbed. We even rewatched some of them. We've talked about them. We have brackets. We're going to get more about this soon. But before damn it, I'm so excited. This is the finale. We have narrowed it down via head-to-head combat to 4 films. Trader Joe's lagers are 6.5%.
Trader Joe's lagers, honestly, guys, you can't see him, but he's feeling saucy.
My friends,
I can see it.
6.5%. That's cute.
My friends, we have narrowed it down to the final 4 films franchises that we decided are the best. We decided that before we decide which out of the 4 is the singular best, John's going to go ahead and give us some shout-outs.
I've got some fucking shout-outs. As always, I dream every night of this man's beer. His name is Carlos Barroza. He is our beer sponsor. Looking forward to those beers. Give him a follow. His handle is C Barroso Bar 2019. That's on Instagram. C Barroso Bar 2019. CBARROZOBAR 2019. And as always, the music you hear on this podcast is provided by the artist Dasein. That's Dasein, Dasein. You can find him on soundcloud.com/Dasein-artist. There's a new track on there. All of his free downloads available. Get on there. Listen to this music. Let's fucking talk about movies. I'm so nervous about this. I actually have anxiety. I feel like every other week I either had a desire to fuck with both of you based on what I was going to pick, or to be affected by both of you, or to just try to enjoy myself.
You desire to be affected by both of us? That's interesting.
And this week we fucked back.
I'm gonna get double tuned by both of these guys. I have a feeling.
This whole process reminds me of an exercise I went through when I was going through college. It was they were teaching you how to design, and you had to pick your perfect room, and you could have 10 things in your perfect room, and then they're like, okay, cool, you picked those 10 things, now take 5 of them away.
Ooh.
Now take 2 of them away.
Ooh.
Now take 2 more away. You were left with like the one thing, and that's how painful this exercise has been so far.
Oh my god, that's like the Navy SEALs killing a puppy thing. Also, there will be parental advisory on this. This will be. There will be there will be a parental advisory on this episode. That is right. There will be explicit content, I'm sure, as we have to narrow it down. It's gonna get tense.
Occasionally, people might say "fuck."
Just
there you go.
Though.
I gave you the warning. If you want to see the brackets, you can go ahead on Instagram. You can check them out in the notes wherever you're listening to this. Spotify, Apple Pods. Find us on Podbean. It does not matter. Yeah, we're going to do a very interesting special between our semifinals and our finals. And that today, I'm very excited about this. We are going to give a shout out to all of the film franchises that we have watched, and then a few of the snubs that our audience begged us to talk about. We're going to go ahead and give a shout out to all of them. So anybody out there that is questioning whether or not we actually spent the time to watch all 3 Austin Powers movies, all 3 Dark Knight movies, as many of the 8 Fast and the Furious movies we could watch. Well, we've seen them all, as many as we could rewatch in a week, etc., etc., etc. We are going to have a very fun segment to give a shout out to all of them. But we have to get into our semifinals. Dave, are you ready to introduce our 2 head-to-head semifinal bouts?
I'm not. I can't do it. I can't lead us into this.
Oh no.
I can't.
Oh no.
This is good. Which, like, John, you do it.
Oh my god, you guys. All right, so we only have 4 seeds right now, obviously, semifinals. So first up, the first one we're going to be talking about, it just hurts my heart to say
I only did this because I want to see him cry.
Okay, it is our 1 seed, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, versus Tom Cruise and the Mission Impossible franchise. That is the 4 seed. That is 1 and 4.
Yep.
That's right.
After that, we're going to be doing...
He said Tom Cruise because it's the only person he actually knows is in it.
That's it. I think one of their names is Benji.
Yeah.
And fuck you, Dave.
And the results of this head-to-head matchup have nothing to do with the amount of money the Church of Scientology paid us to put Mission Impossible in our semifinals.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with it. And then the second one we'll be talking about after that is the 2 and 3 seed. That is the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, versus Harry Potter. Harry motherfucking Potter. That's going to be intense. These are 2 really intense.
Both these are going to hurt.
I'm not excited about it.
What would we need to say to get David Miscavige to listen to our podcast? That is the head of the Church of Scientology International. I wonder what we would have to say to get him to listen to our podcast. John, which one are we going to start with today? Which
a well-crafted email would do it.
Where is his wife, by the way? Hashtag, where's David Miscavige's wife?
Okay, Jeff, you digress.
Oh my God. I saw Going Clear.
Yeah.
We just
this
need
is
to
not
whisper.
the presidential podium.
We just need to whisper on air whatever they
Shout
take
out
them
to
into the room
Ramini.
and show them.
That's
Would
right.
they like fucking drag them into a room and show them like a
Xenu
drawing
is
or
waiting
something?
for all of us. I cannot wait. Okay, John, which one are we starting with?
We're starting with Lord of the Rings versus Mission Impossible, and I'm so
Oh,
my
our 1
stomach
seed!
hurts.
Who?
My stomach hurts, you guys. I can't do it. I'm so nervous. Oh God, damn it, Dave! That exercise you said and you did in college. That's all I've been thinking about all week. Like, all right.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ!
He's visibly turning
Stop.
red. He's visibly turning red.
I'm just gonna say. I will admit before we move forward. I'm really not 100% sure what my decision is going to be.
That's a
I'm
lie.
going to admit on air that I know that Lord of the Rings is not it really isn't like the franchise in the sense of a franchise that we have been talking about with the other ones, where there are multiple movies over multiple years that are not a part of one single story. Like a lot of these franchises have wonderful character arcs. It is. It could be 6 movies, but it is technically one story as opposed to another installment.
Some tried to be one story. Hashtag Star Wars. Some tried and failed.
Yeah. Fuck you, Star. Yeah. Hey, real fast. Let's talk about this because I wanted to ask you guys: Did you guys watch the space launch? Did you see the launch yesterday?
I didn't see it live. I saw a clip.
Jeff, you don't even know what we're talking about, you ignorant piece of shit. They launched yesterday. Tom Cruise has announced, I don't know if you guys know this, he wants to film part of the next Mission Impossible on the ISS. He wants to film some of the next Mission Impossible on the International Space Station.
Of course he does, because what else does he have left?
Let's see if that pans out. Because Colin Trevorrow, when he was going to direct the last Star Wars film, was going to film some of it in space, and I'm pretty sure he didn't tell anyone before he announced that. And the insurance companies and the producers went, "What the fuck?" on the phone. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
didn't Chris Nolan try doing that?
Scientology on his side.
Yeah. Didn't Chris Nolan try doing that? He tried to go so high up in space that you lost some gravity, or it doesn't fucking matter. Anyway, let's talk about these movies, all right? Let's talk about these franchises. We've got Lord of the Rings. We've got Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible has 6 films. Yes, they are making more. Lord of the Rings made 3. We are considering the Hobbit trilogy to be a spin-off. Maybe that is an unfair advantage that we are giving Lord of the Rings that other franchises don't get from us. But we have to pick one. We have to pick one. So the Lord of the Rings trilogy was filmed pretty much sequentially with actual principal photography, filming between 18 months and 2 years. I'm not really sure, but with reshoots and pre-production, we're talking about 4 years. And also with pitching and all this kind of stuff between Peter Jackson and his wife and writing partner Fran Walsh. I mean, we're talking about a decade's worth of work that went into these 3 films. So as far as the amount of work and effort and creating new technologies to make this happen, it has the franchise feel. Maybe Amazon taking over it and creating its own series based on Lord of the Rings, maybe the Hobbit series, make it feel a little bit different than the rest of the trilogies. It is an outlier for sure, but the one thing that we cannot argue is that the quality of these films, the quality of watching from the first shot of one with the Cate Blanchett voiceover and the backstory of how the rings came to be and what the fuck is a ring. When I first saw this trailer when I was 10, I was like, what the fuck is a ring and why are there lords of them? It doesn't make any sense. Through the final frame in Return of the King when they travel into the West, that journey, I like to call it the hero's journey, which has nothing to do with mushrooms.
Jeff just coined that right now. He likes to call it the hero's journey. That's just
I've said it on our podcast. Okay.
Must be real.
That journey from the opening frame to the end is one of the finest adventures you could take as a film fan. Mission Impossible started in one place, ended in a completely different place, and somehow just keeps getting better and better over the course of 25 years. So, we got to break it down. What are your thoughts and feelings? John, you're sweating. You're fucking sweating. Your face is red.
The thing appearing over his eyes right now is just error. It's he does not want to commute.
I mean, you guys, I think, honestly, part of me, I'm trying to be delicate about the way I talk about it, because I'm sure I'm just going to give away my intentions right now. Dave, if I were to do your college design assignment, I have said for many years now, Lord of the Rings is my desert island movie, dude. If I can only take one movie with me, one piece of music, one book, I'm taking Lord of the Rings. It's that one single story. It's long enough that I feel like I can get multiple watches in. The rewatchability is huge. The craftsmanship is cutting edge. It's still cutting edge, even though it broke all the molds then. The acting is so wonderful that you don't even think about the acting, and all of the performances are great. And at the crux of it, the very core of this entire thing is one of the greatest fictional stories ever told. I don't know. I mean, as much as I love Mission Impossible, I clearly am a huge fan of it. I've been fighting for them the whole time. We keep coming back over and over and over again. Why the fuck do we like this one more than this one? What holds up? I cannot get over how I feel at the end of watching Lord of the Rings every single time. Every step of the way is just as powerful as any of these other amazing movies we've been watching in terms of compelling filmmaking. But it's the way it feels when it's done. It's the way you feel at the end of it that makes you either want to, I can't wait to watch it again, or maybe you love it so much that you want to put some time before you watch it again so that you can kind of forget a little bit so that you can really relive that journey. I don't have that same feeling with the Mission Impossibles as much as I love them.
You don't?
There's a different kind of arc. It's a different kind of thing. So in terms of emotional impact, that is the only thing that I'm really banking on here, because I think they're both excellently made, super compelling. I can watch them over and over and over and over again. I am more emotionally affected philosophically affected, storytelling affected by Lord of the Rings. So I'm going to have to go with it, and it hurts my heart. I'm sure nobody's really surprised who's been listening to this whole thing. That has been my number one seed this whole fucking time. Hobbits all day, bitch. What you got?
Dave?
I mean, I was pretty hard on the Mission Impossibles last week, and that was in context. But putting them up against Lord of the Rings is it's a very interesting matchup because, I mean, Lord of the Rings from the get-go, like Jeff said, consistent all the way through. It finishes on like when they cut that movie and I had to wait a year or 2 years, I can't remember how long it was, I blocked it out, to see the next one. I was sitting in that theater and I was like, you bastards.
It was every year, once a year.
Yeah, and it like it was painful and I wanted it to come back and I wanted more of it. And then when we finally got to the end of that and I bought them and I now bought the extended editions and it was like there was more and it was great. And I watched them and watched them and watched them and watched them and watched them. And it's flawless from beginning to end. There's a couple of like, you know, if you really, really want to pick it apart, you can, like as far as like effect shots and stuff like that, but they were pioneering stuff as they went. They invented the crowd algorithm for like
Helm's Deep, right? Was it specifically for Helm's Deep?
It was for all of them, like for every single crowd scene that they had. Like they brought in the army, but then a lot of that was digitally supplemented as well. But like they invented that entire plugin, which has now been like redeveloped and re-engineered, and that's like they were inventing technologies
performance capture.
Yeah.
Great.
Mission Impossible, for me, on the other hand, was kind of like Fred Flintstone starting his car. It's like the first couple of steps got traction, and then there was nothing for about 5 seconds, and then okay, we're good, we're off.
So then nothing for 5 seconds was 2, right? The couple of steps was 1. It was really great, but it didn't actually go anywhere.
Yeah, two for me was a swing and a miss.
Yeah. And then JJ got involved. It turned into a summer popcorn flick, but he was like, I need Philip Seymour Hoffman to give us a depth, and then we're back and running.
Dude, 3 for me was night and day from where 2, and it just went up from there. And it's great because they are fantastic movies. But like I didn't even see the latest one in the theater. I waited till it came out in streaming, and I waited till we were doing this to see it. I was just like, yeah, okay, cool. They're here, they're there, they're whatever. Mm-hmm. And so in respect to that, like I'm sure I'll rewatch most of them. Probably not that second one.
Jesus Christ.
I know,
but yeah, for me also as well, it's got to be Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's just got to. I mean, there's a I may have already referenced this when we were in the first episode when we were talking about these, but there is an essay that Tolkien wrote on fantasy and secondary worlds, and I can't remember if he either published it or if it was in a letter he sent to C.S. Lewis, because they were always going back and forth about what this whole thing they were creating, this new genre they were co-creating, fantasy. And I think there is something that it's not just because it's one cohesive story that came from one novel that they broke into 3 awesome, really, really long movies. I think there is also something to be said about what's up?
Hobbit was first, right?
Hobbit was first. Lord of the Rings is its own novel that he wrote as one, and then they forced him to release it as 3 parts.
He had already hinted at the fantasy element he was writing. Go ahead. Sorry, keep going.
Right? It's not even. It's not the masterpiece.
What are we? A book
anyway, so I'm saying there might be something inherent. If we stick with Tolkien's argument, there might be something inherent about what are we looking for when we come into these franchises? A little bit of escapism. We want to disappear into a world of storytelling that's going to take hours and hours. So sometimes that's days and nights, depending on how long it is. And I think there is something inherent in fantasy that invites an audience member into that kind of mindset a little bit easier than I do when I'm watching the Mission Impossibles, which are tons and tons and tons of fun. But I know I am on planet Earth and there is a movie star going to town with stunts and shit on the screen. I'm still having tons of fun, but I don't feel like I have been transported in the same way you do when you hear Cate Blanchett's voice in the prologue at the beginning of the first one. It's just immediate. And you're right, Dave, at the end of every one of those viewings, I was so taken at the end of all of those times in the theater. I don't think I had ever been affected by anything that way before.
I mean, you sort of still are. I don't know, when I watch it on digital, when it gets to the end, I'm like, no, fuck, get the next one. Like it still happens.
Next. Yeah.
You don't want this. You don't want the story to stop.
Yes.
and
it happens at the end of the third one too. You just start it over again because you just want to be there and to go to live in that place.
Yeah, the more you see it, the more you're like, honestly, I want a Galadriel spinoff. I want a Boromir Faramir spinoff. I want a History of the Race of Man. I want to know more about the Dunedain. I want more Hobbit talk, believe it or not, even though they have their own book. I definitely want to know more about the Elfish culture and how they split, right? Aren't they split? Kate Blanchett lives in the woods.
Really.
I want to know more, goddammit.
It's a whole conversation. Yeah, there are two different...
more about Saruman,
Jeff,
more about the Ten Kings. It is true. Although, for Mission Impossible, you know what I'm really interested in? I hope the next movie is about deep fakes. Because I love that Mission Impossible has... no other franchise could really get identity manipulation the same. I mean, how many times? Certainly Bond. I said this in the last... when we talked about Mission Impossible. The crossover between Bond and Mission Impossible is... it's obviously very noticeable when you watch them back and forth. They both primarily deal in international espionage. They deal with the idea of if you're caught or you're dead, you aren't actually working for us. We're going to deny your existence. Obviously, the womanizing we talked about a little bit until they sort of gave up on that with Tom Cruise.
It's essentially the British office and the American office.
That was their pitch, actually.
That was their pitch. That was exactly their pitch. So, but they did this really interesting, cool thing where they basically were like, your eyes are going to deceive you. And that was another twist that Bond didn't have that I haven't seen done anywhere else, which is why I'm curious to see if they do deep fakes in the future. But that is a new level of international espionage. And I love that about Mission Impossible and how it got better and better. And I love that they owned their franchise ship. And they turned the Syndicate saga into a multiple movie. So a lot of them were standalone. So similar to Bond, which we voted out, it was a snub, and then it had a chance to come in, and we voted it back out again. So twice we voted it out. But with Mission Impossible, they were able to take the singular format of this was a TV show where we're just going to make one-off films. But it's not just Ethan and his team. Like, I don't know, Dave, Benji, Luther. That's it. That's all I got.
Julia,
you look
Julia,
those
his
up.
wife.
You look those up.
Julia, his wife, love Julia, Ilsa. But then they started owning it, especially when Chris McQuarrie started getting involved. And I know JJ turned it into a franchise film with 3, where he was like, we can keep the franchise elements, but make it a popcorn flick. But when Chris McQuarrie got in and said, here's how we do this for today's audience, I think that was actually Rogue Nation, which was 5.
I would say 3 is my most rewatched one ever.
Oh, that is cool. Too. Fallout is gonna be mine, but also Fallout. I'm gonna want to rewatch Rogue Nation every time I get into Fallout, just for the setup. You know, do you ever like a song on an album so much that you listen to the song before it just to set it up? You ever done that before? It's like you like it so much that rather than re-listening to it, you get into it.
You're strange.
Getting into it,
Yeah, I want to get into it. Yeah. I listen to all of Lightning Crashes by Live because I need the intro, because even though it's slow, I want to build up so by the time he goes, "Hey, angel, opens her eyes," I'm like ready for it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's like, are you ever digging a hole and you dig another hole just to practice for digging that first hole?
That's I think Dave's trying to make this relevant to my speech here. Ultimately, I'm going with The Lord of the Rings.
It sounds like so I guess I want to ask you guys, what does that mean before we get to the next round, which might talk more to this? All those things that we loved so much and that are, I still stand by it, that are so impressive about Mission Impossible, how they kind of, I don't know how we want to phrase it, did they kind of rescue a franchise? Like they didn't have that intention of it being this one giant cohesive thing. Like I was saying in that first episode, he didn't plan on it being these individual installments with different directors for it to feel kind of detached. So it's almost like they did, in rescuing that franchise, they still were able to build a character and a world and a work family around him and a consistent world of the organizations that were always going against him. In spite of them being able to build that so well and to rescue it from that individual thing, it's probably the best of that kind of franchise. And are we basically saying that even that, as good as it is, will never be able to compete with a single giant arc, a single giant story? Because before we get to
we're not there yet. We're
going to be talking about these two different kinds of movies that all kind of live under one giant thing. So 3 out of our 4, I just want to point that out. 3 out of our 4 in these semifinals. Mission Impossible is the only one to make it this far as detached installments, and I think that's fucking awesome.
It's not entirely detached though. They've had a continuing thread, even loose, like thin little threads from part 3.
It has been loose, but it's super loose though, right?
And
like,
MCU wanted to be. They just knew they could shave off some of the fat as they went, but they had a very finely tuned focal point going the entire. And certainly, once they were building up for Avengers 1, going until Infinity War.
Like, let me put it this way: I don't think Tom Cruise and Kathleen Kennedy know when and how they want to end this saga.
No, but they have 2 more planned though, and I think they're doing them in conjunction, right?
They're supposed to, so they might. But in their heads, when they were doing these things all along, like maybe Ethan will die, maybe they had something like that in their mind. Versus Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Marvel. They know how this thing's going to wrap up.
They hand it over to either Jeremy Renner or Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf. Fuck out of here. I say we just say right now, Lord of the Rings is going on.
Woo!
I think we should take a 2-minute break so I could pee, and then we are coming back with something really, really fun.
That's what you get for starting early.
not to end. So let's say our final farewells to Mission Impossible, which made it all the way to the semifinal round.
It did. And that theme music. I love all the themes.
Dave,
I love all the themes.
Dave, who's your favorite Mission Impossible's character besides Tom Cruise?
Is there one?
John?
Benji, dude, of course.
Benji's awesome. I like Solomon Lane a whole lot. And Luther. Shout out to Luther. Bing Rames.
They've looked all these names up.
Not true. Cool. So here's what we're going to do. When we come back, we're going to talk about our 2 seed. Well, we redid the seed. So we're going to talk about our new 2 seed MCU and our new 3 seed Harry Potter. I think it's going to be contentious. I do. And then as soon as it's over, we are going to say our shout outs in our So Long segment to all of the franchises that we spent so much time on and may never see again. Listen to some Dasheim, get another beer.
We're kidding. We're watching all of them again.
All right. See you in a second.
We'll be back. We're back.
And we're back!
Jeff's awake again. We're back.
We're back. Lord of the Rings.
We are still in the semifinals. The Lord of the Rings, our 1 seed, has advanced. Everybody is fucking shocked. Sorry for overloading my microphone, Dave. I forgot my good microphone in New York City. Deepest apologies. Okay. Shocker. Lord of the Rings is sitting there waiting for some loose meat in either our original 7 seed MCU, which Dave put up to our 2 seed, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, 22 films. We call it the Avengers series, separating it from the X-Men, for instance. Okay. Our 2 seed MCU against our new 3 seed, old 6 seed, Harry Potter.
Hello, Harry Potter.
The 8 Harry Potter films. All right, Dobby. That's good. That's a pretty good Dobby. Not Fantastic Beasts. That doesn't count. We're not calling it the Magical World. We're not insane. Fantastic Beasts has no fucking business balling with the Harry Potter movies here that we're talking about. Who wants to start?
We should make Jeff
start. Yeah, you start, motherfucker.
All right, so here's the thing. So I said very quickly in our second round, our quarterfinals, that I believe that Harry Potter was my new 2 seed. I love the Harry Potter movies. We talked very extensively in our last podcast, which you should go check out, about Harry Potter, about how if you hadn't read the books, which I had read the books, I was sullied, if you will. I had read the books for the most part before seeing all the films. If you hadn't read the books, the timeline gets fucked up. You know what I mean? If you've seen these Harry Potter movies, you never know when it's February in Harry Potter, right? You never know exactly when it's October, November. Oh, it's Christmas. You never really know. They could have had so much fun with Halloween, let me tell you. Bunch of wizards, but they didn't. And also some story gets kind of yada yada over. Actually, it's really funny. So I just rewatched the end of 4 because Chloe had finally finished the 4th book, Goblet of Fire. And as she finishes the book, she says, oh, it's so weird when, characters just explain the whole movie, a la Scooby-Doo. Barty Crouch Jr. at the end of the 4th book just explains his entire history, basically. And in the movie, they don't do that. And I'm like, well, I'm glad they don't do that because it keeps it quick. But then again, it is kind of weird that the villain of the fourth movie, Barty Crouch Jr., who's disguised as Moody the whole time, spoiler, is somebody that they sort of showed you in a pensive flashback. And so if you hadn't read the books, it's sort of like if you're watching the whole movie saying, who's the villain? What's going on here? And then they're like, it was Barty Crouch. You're like, oh, the fuck is that? You know what I mean? So it's like Harry Potter does have a lot of that. No, I forgive it. I love it so much. I go back to these movies a million times in a row. And my big question for the Harry Potter movies is the reason that I keep going back, not only the world, not only to live with Harry and Ron, but is it also because I've already filled in those gaps myself? And I don't even realize that they're missing because they cover them up so exquisitely. Moving over to MCU. So obviously Harry Potter, not a perfect franchise, but just one that, Jesus Christ, you want to live in forever. Over to MCU. I was really hard on MCU during our segment with it. I still voted for it to move on. But the big things that John and I talked about, especially, no offense, Dave, you did too, but the big things we talked about was consequence. They don't go full satire. So them kind of laughing and joking while there's mass murder and terrorism and alien invasions going on. But it's not actually satirical comedy, but they infuse comedy into it. So it's like whether or not their lack of appreciation for the actual circumstances that are going on and yada yada-ing that, but also wanting it to be real enough that the audience has a connection to it, where we sit there and we say, God, I hope the good guy wins, otherwise humanity's ruined, and your heart races. You know, that kind of tug of war that they play with us was difficult, and they ultimately navigated themselves pretty well until Endgame, which John and I both shat on during our MCU podcast. But I decided this week I wanted to give it another shot because, to be completely honest, this week I thought I was going to do the unthinkable and vote MCU over Harry Potter, because I'm watching these Harry Potter movies and I'm like, you know what? They're right. They totally messed up timelines in the Harry Potter movie. They need a miniseries. It's the only way to do this is to redo it as miniseries because there's too many things that they missed. Cho is a much bigger character in the books and the movie. She only looks at Harry weirdly. I don't even know who the Ravenclaws are. You cannot only watch the movies and not read the books and explain to me what a Ravenclaw is. You just can't do it. So it depends. Dave, this is Dave's point. It depends on the book so much that I was like, I'm going to vote for MCU. Shit, I'm doing it. Harry Potter had a good run. They got theme parks. Everybody loves it. Halloween costumes forever. And then I decided to watch Infinity War because I shat on Endgame. And I went back to rewatch Infinity War. And I was like, for me, Endgame was the time travel thing really ruined the whole fucking movie for me. They spent half the movie trying to explain how they have to time travel to justify that they may have fucked up, leading the audience into how does this end? This ends with it doesn't matter because we'll just go back and fix all the mistakes. And that didn't work for me as a viewer. Yeah, no, okay, that's a good half buzz, Dave.
So, Dave, what do you think? Because you and I have talked about this many, many times, and I've made this point before as well. I think I am in Jeff's camp in terms of I always have so much fun. You guys, listeners, just to clarify one more time, we were getting down to the nitty gritty here. We love these fucking movies. I'm going to watch all these movies many, many, many more times.
We're
just trying to figure out which one we think is better right now in our lives. So I know Dave and I have had this conversation before off the air about tone with Marvel. And I think it's, for me, it's just one of those that you love or you hate. I know you love it. So tell me, as a huge fan, why it works for you so well and what makes it, is that the ingredient that makes these things sustainable for 22 movies?
Well, it's really interesting. Like the one thing that has been interesting in this has been seeing what Jeff takes away from it, and he focuses on the destruction and the people dying and the humanity and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the fact that these guys are quipping. And it's like, from my culture, that's a thing we do. Like, that's how we deal with tragedy and loss, and that's how we we introduce levity into the situation. So for me, when they were doing that, it was like, that's them dealing with what's going on around them. It's like, let's make a smarmy remark and then go kick the shit out of whatever's killing all these people. We can't deal with the fact that they're killing these people right now, because if we do, we're going to be fucked up. We're not going to be able to finish it. Essentially, what you're dealing with here is, like, a lot of these are summer blockbusters. Some of them get a little darker than others. But
I like the darker ones better.
All the information is there. Like, the whole character progression of the Hulk, he has never died before. Like, in the Avengers movie, when they first go and pick him up, like, he says, I put a bullet in my mouth and the other guy pulled it out, or the other guy spat it out. And so the Hulk is invincible. The Hulk has never faced death, and the Hulk almost gets killed by Thanos. So that's Bruce Banner's Hulk going through PTSD. The Hulk will not come out because he almost got killed, and that's never happened to him before.
That is not what was on screen at the beginning of Infinity War. Was that,
That's
oh
what
my
I
god,
took from it.
the PTSD is getting me, and that's why I'm like, come on, the team is needing me. I'm letting the team down.
No, I know what you mean. No, I know what you mean.
No.
Like, but that was one of those things for me where this is where this is, guys. This is so subjective. Like, I'm talking to listeners and to the three of us. It's the way you're going to interpret this stuff and the context you bring into it. I intellectually perceived it the same way. It just didn't really land for me emotionally because of the tone. So there are some things like that I think
that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean. It's not just the
I think
content
if there's
specifically.
any flaw to take away from that, it is they left it too far open to interpretation.
Yeah.
So everybody took what they were going to take from it.
Yeah, but
maybe they needed to spell it out more for an audience. I don't
think it's about. I don't know. I think this is why I don't even like having like. It's such a shame we're gonna have to vote on this because it's not about bad or good. It's about the individual and if it works for you or not. Clearly, Jesus Christ, clearly these movies work. They're super successful. Everybody loves it. I've watched them all at least 3 times. I mean, I'm going to watch them again. I have tons of fun. But last week, when we were talking about the Dark Knight trilogy, and I'm sorry, Marvel hardcore MCU fans, but every time I watch Begins and Dark Knight, it's like I breathe and release a lot of tension that I'm carrying right now as just an audience member in this superhero, fantastic world we're living in, where there's just tons and tons of escapism with the vehicle of superhero movies, and I'm enjoying them, having fun, whatever. But I miss the sincerity that Chris Nolan brought to them, and I think that I've always struggled a little bit with the Marvel movies, as much fun as I've had, just because sometimes I do catch myself trying to laugh with them and just have fun. And then I look at what's happening around them and I think Batman, who is also a superhero, it's easier for me to swallow and for me to escape into that world because I know every character in Begins is taking it just as seriously as I am. And I think that might be, it's just a me thing. I'm not saying this is a good, bad, right, wrong, objective, or it's just, every time I watch these Marvel movies, I have to just tell myself, you're just going to sit down and you're just going to have a great fucking time. Because if this was actually happening to people, it would not be, I don't think it would actually have that tone.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at.
It's really interesting because like the Dark Knight had that tone, and then they tried to do it with like the DC universe, and everybody went, well, it's not Marvel, it sucks.
No, I'm with you, Dave. I'm supportive of DCU in that regard for sure.
Yeah, but the really funny, like, have you been following David Ayer's stuff this week about the Suicide Squad possible release, the Ayer cut now we're going on?
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
I'm curious
because apparently his cut of the movie was dark and serious, and then Batman vs Superman tanked, and then they released Deadpool straight on the back of that. And the studio freaked out and sent it to a trailer editing company to re-edit the film and turned it into a comedy.
No, I'm interested because those backstories of those characters was like 30 seconds each and just like glowing. It was strange.
And it was cut to hell. Like there's a whole dark, longer version that like apparently they shot almost enough Joker and Harley footage to make an entire another movie. But again, it was decided
they had to,
yeah, we want to be more like Marvel. But I'm getting off topic. But in this case, it's a lot of people. I think again, we're talking about movies. We're talking about escapism. A lot of people really related to the fact that, okay, yes, we can, like, sure, we're destroying a city, but I've come here for escapism. I've come here to escape the harsh reality of what's going on around me, and there is some bad stuff going on around us. And I think that is a great escape for people, and I don't think it should be persecuted.
I know what you mean, dude. And I almost hate having to say that.
That's a good point. That's well put.
You're totally right. I mean, I think maybe the only, as a film person, again, if we're talking about content and taking in a lot of content and trying to determine what makes a really good franchise, 22 movies is a whole lot. That's a lot of conscious escapism. So I think part of me, as much I've done it before, I've done it at least once where I was like, all right, every night I'm going to watch one of these fuckers and I'm just going to go back to back and I'm going to crush it for 22 nights.
I've done this also.
I had fun. I wasn't like judging myself, but there is something to be said about taking 22 nights of your life to just have fun. And if it doesn't deliver the emotional bang that you're kind of looking for after taking a huge journey, I mean, if all of them are over 2 hours, but at the bare minimum, we're talking about 50 hours of footage probably. I think there is part of me that sometimes wonders, is there too much of a good thing with these Marvel movies? Because they have got a machine that works. And sometimes I'm getting a little nervous that they're so successful with their formula that they have dominated the market, and they have created a specific brand of escapism that I get a little nervous sometimes that it's starting to infect everyone. And that's why everything is turning into some superhero kind of spin, because they seem to be the only thing that's working right now. And I think part of the reason is that they're not challenging.
Isn't that what this whole discussion's about, though? Like the rewatchability of these?
Yeah, for sure. But if it doesn't challenge you, then I don't know if it's going to help us grow as a society. And I think, as Peter Jackson would say, since we were just talking about Lord of the Rings and we're going to come back to it, Peter Jackson is an enormous fan of escapism, but only when it's done really well, because he does believe it can be a vehicle for challenge and for change within a society. It doesn't mean you're leaving society behind and reality behind.
I mean, this is a hard discussion, because like I get the same sense of escapism out of Harry Potter, just I get 2 extra weeks out of Marvel.
So so yeah.
What's funny is, wait, I'm gonna side.
You don't feel like there's any more sincerity?
I'm gonna side with Dave for a little bit.
There's any more sincerity with the Harry Potter?
No, there is more. There's more sincerity in Harry Potter.
I know what you mean. There's not tons.
There is, but then
still for kids. But keep going, Jeff. I'm sorry.
It's for kids up until the end of end of 4.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate on myself and come back to Dave's side of things, because I was going into this thinking Infinity War in hindsight may have actually been the worst movie for me to watch at the beginning, because it ends really well with Thanos. And you know what? We finally here, I'm in quarantining. Sorry, my mic isn't great. I left my mic in New York City, yada, yada, yada. And we had some guests with masks sitting far apart, didn't shake hands, come over, and they start a new job in August, these 2 guests. And they said that they've just been rewatching movies. And I was like, oh, so funny. I talk about this regularly. And they're rewatching the Marvel movies. Now, they're only on 15, so they haven't gotten to the Avengers Infinity War Endgame. And I said, what are your favorites? And I'm trying to pull something out of them, and they didn't have the answers that I wanted. Like, what's your favorite one? I want a list, and I didn't get that. But I was like, but you've watched 15 of these, and you're going to keep going. And they're like, we love movies where the good guys are going to win, but they always win in a different way. And I was like, you know what? That's right, because that is a different element of escapism, where you want the action, you want a little bit of fantasy, but you also want a little bit of realism. And you want the good guys to win, but you don't necessarily want it to be easy, but you do want to go to sleep well. And having said everything I said about the fact that I think the MCU possibly could have still maintained the quality and not asked me to forgive it for certain elements of it, I will say, by far, out of all of the franchises, they figured that ratio out the best. Reality plus fantasy plus, dare I say, sci-fi plus good versus evil. They figured that out really, really well, and they figured it out a lot.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
for that reason,
to throw in sci-fi, like when I got tickets to go and see Guardians of the Galaxy based on the Hooked on a Feeling trailer. I saw the trailer and I was like, I'm in. I want to see this. This trailer rocks. It is an awesomely edited trailer, and I went and saw it. But I really wasn't expecting much out of it. I'd never really heard of Guardians of the Galaxy and that sort of thing, and it blew me. It's one of my favorite Marvel movies.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, there is no doubt. It is. It is. No, good call. The second one's not very good. It is undeniably. It is undeniably sustainable. I mean, we can't. Again, all these metrics we're talking about, folks. We talk about the IP and ticket sales. Like, it is undeniable. This has never been achieved before. It is remarkable that they have been able to make 12 plus years of movies, of 22 movies.
And they called their shot, like Babe Ruth. They said, we're going to do this. And they did it. They fucking did it.
I've gone back more than once. It's not like I just saw them in the movie and was one of those ticket buyers. Like, I definitely went back multiple times. Yeah. I am also, Dan, what were you talking about? I also wanted to bring up that the good guys winning thing, that they I don't want to take anything away. I don't want it to sound like I'm criticizing them on the tone is not an ultimate criticism on the writing. I am very impressed with what I mentioned in there the first time we talked about them. I have always been very impressed with how they have subverted some of the character archetypes that, from what I understand, were not the archetypes and the same structure of character arcs in the comic books. The way they ended up subverting Captain America and Iron Man. I agree with Jeff. I don't like what they did with Hulk as much, but they were trying to do something there. They tried to do something with Thor.
And they somehow wrote Edward Norton out of the movie. That's pretty cool.
The Captain America Iron Man stuff is extremely impressive. And you're right. They did find the bullseye. Yeah. The bullseye of just trying to make you feel like I know they're going to come out on top. If not, there's another movie where they will right after this. So I don't have to worry. I'm not going to be actually anxious in my seat. And yet, it's not going to play out the way I thought it would. It's not just good guys swooping in and kicking ass all the time. Ultimately, they will have to do that. But there's probably going to be enough obstacles that they're going to have to take another route to get there. And they almost consistently do that, especially with the Avengers movies. And I respect that. I will say just my final criticism, because I am still not sure. I have not made my vote up yet. I don't know about you guys.
Me neither.
It bums me out a lot that my least favorite movie is Endgame. And maybe the Wasp. Maybe the Wasp one. I don't.
It's Iron Man 2. Like Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2.
I don't even really consider those, but it bums me out that they got so close.
And it's fun.
They got so close. Because I did like Infinity War, and I feel like they got so close to doing this thing that no one had ever done before, and then I felt like they just completely leaned into crowd service for the last one.
They took a victory.
It's a business.
Yeah. Fuck you.
It's a business. Nobody cares about Trump failing on Trump's stakes as long as Trump real estate does really well.
The business was working. No,
shut up. The Ant-Man was worth
the business was working the way it was. They did not have to do that.
Billions of dollars. They did not have to
do that, and they decided to do that.
Billions of dollars.
No, I'm sorry. So that's it leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
It leaves a bad taste in your mouth. I can see how it happened though, like because these guys came in and they did Civil War and like they managed to negotiate like Spider-Man's return to the MCU in cooperation with Sony.
That was so cool with Tony Stark bringing Spider-Man in. That was cool.
And then these guys then proceeded to go from movie to movie, from strength to strength, and they handed them the finale because they're like that team. The Russo brothers were the thing. Yeah. Like they were knocking it out of the park every single time.
It was cool.
What happened was I think the oversight went away.
Yeah.
And so there was no one there going, "Are you sure that's a good idea?"
Everything that you just said about what's so cool about it, both of you, with the good guys who don't know how, I feel like they kind of abandoned that with this one. Like it was almost like every superhero cliche was put into the last one that never existed in the others. The beating up, like all of them trying to gang up and fight together against the villain who defeats them. People literally, an army literally coming out of nowhere to rescue them. Like that, I don't know. They always they wrote themselves out of those traps in most of the other big movies, and they fell right into it with the last one.
See. Okay, look, the second...
everybody loves the last one, though, except for us, so I don't know.
The thing is, the second they got hold of that, and, like, he got a hold of the glove, and, like, it was like this starts with I Am Iron Man, it finishes with I Am Iron Man, but from that snap onwards, you're expecting those people, like, to come out, and that you're expecting that army, because you're like, everyone who disintegrated is now back. And it's for people who were closely following the story and got invested and waiting for that moment. It was like, okay, they've done it.
And that's what you literally just said. But that's exactly what I'm saying. That was exactly what you expected to happen. And I felt they were so good at writing a surprise into the way they wrapped up the other ones that was the only time I felt like this is super predictable. Yeah. And I still had fun, you guys. Don't get me wrong. That was great watching everybody fight, but it was the only moment that I felt that way out of the entire Avengers series, at least. Certainly those core Avengers movies.
Right.
I mean, I must say, consistently though, Doctor Strange is becoming one of my favorite characters on the film version because he
seems aware of what's going on.
Yeah, and also that one moment where he just takes a pause in the middle of battle and holds up one finger and like gives away that he's in the
one in the
the gang in Big Trouble in Little China. And
and it's like, this is the one.
Like we're in
So
it.
cool.
Him and Wong together, like the two of them together. Is so cool.
I feel like those movies are going to be great.
And unlike,
like use him.
I also
more.
want to say this: unlike Star Wars, that everyone who now listens to this podcast know I have a lot of issues with. Unlike that, fuck you, buzz me. Oh, I thought you were about to buzz me. Okay. Unlike
he did it while drinking.
Unlike Star Wars, I feel like there are some. I'm not going to call them duds either, because I don't dislike any of the Avengers movies as much as I dislike some of the Star Wars franchise movies. So I wouldn't say they're duds. Yeah, there are some that are definitely not very good, but they are.
Sorry, Mickey Rourke almost won an Oscar. Now we know why it's good he didn't. Sorry, John.
None of them are bad enough though to make me frustrated with the franchise. The way Star Wars, some of them are bad enough to make me frustrated with what happens to the franchise. Somehow, because of this sustainable thing, this formula we're talking about, even though I have all those things I just said, I'll still stand by them. But it never ultimately makes me mad at the franchise. The franchise works. The entire arc worked. They wrapped it up emotionally so that you feel like they can't go any further with what they've done. There is a sense of completion, even though they're about to do the stage 2 thing with some of these characters who are going to spin off. Yeah. It's not going to feel like this. And I don't know, you guys, I can't help but feel that out of all these franchises we've been talking about over the years, they are the only one to do what they've done. I have a feeling that Kevin Feige sat down and pitched this. I think he pitched a many movie franchise arc that was going to encompass all those core Marvel characters, and it was going to take place at least over a decade, 10, 15, maybe 20 years, 10 or 20 movies.
Like, whatever, little man, go away and do that.
Yeah, and he was like, watch this.
Hey,
and then 12 years later.
Unbelievable.
So question, I know. So question, what do you guys think about Harry Potter?
What?
You haven't said a fucking word about Harry Potter. It's been 30
That's because you talked about MCU
so because I said some
for
shit
fucking
about
like 20 minutes.
War,
you started talking about Infinity War.
I'm watching my audio for the past 24 minutes. You have been talking about MCU. You haven't said a fucking thing about Harry Potter.
Did you hear that?
Vote now.
Yeah, Dave, you and I have been talking about MCU. That was you and I talking the whole time about Marvel. Okay.
Yeah, that was totally
We're in the 30s.
Jeff did not go off on a 20-minute
Jeff, give me a recap on the 6 Harry Potter.
Just like Thanos left Captain America a note or something.
Explain the entire last Harry Potter movie, just in case if I missed it. Harry Potter.
Harry got very lucky. Didn't buy his books ahead of time, even though apparently he's super wealthy because his parents died at 24 and were millionaires. And he got handed a book that turned out to be Snape's that told him what to do, and then Dumbledore dies.
Here's the deal, you guys. Here's the deal. Tell me if you guys agree with this, because this is what I've been marinating on this entire week. Again, I was not sure. I had a feeling I was going to pick Lord of the Rings. I know we were joking about that. I really wasn't sure what I was going to pick for this one. This is the criticism that I keep going over in my head with the Harry Potters versus I've already shared my Marvel criticisms. My Harry Potter criticism is that unlike Lord of the Rings.
Wait, honestly, stop, save it for the next segment because I'm voting for Harry Potter. So if you vote for Harry Potter, we can just talk about it in the next segment. Give people something to look forward to.
Am I going to be the deciding vote? Jeff is voting for Harry Potter.
And honestly, there was a smidgen of me. I went back and forth. I started MCU, then I went Harry Potter, then I went back to MCU, and I went back to Harry Potter. I'm voting for Harry Potter.
Sticking with MCU.
Yep, John, you get to vote.
Are you serious?
And if you can either say goodbye to Harry Potter right this second, or you can talk about Harry Potter in the final segment. And this isn't half of what Dave fucking pulled on us, all right? So that's where I'm at right now. But if you're gonna go into Harry Potter rant, I'd really rather get into our so long.
It's like I'm one of his toys, and I wrote him a note.
God damn it, dude!
But go ahead. Vote for it. Vote. Go ahead. Do whatever the fuck you want. Dave and I have said all we need to say about MCU.
Why are you voting for Harry Potter? Help me out, because I need a little help. I want to hear why you were voting for Harry Potter over MCU, because that wasn't clear. You just surprised me. I thought you were going to vote for MCU just then.
Yeah, me too. No. I could rewatch Harry Potter once a year. In rewatching about half, maybe a little less, maybe about 10 of the MCU films during this thing. Every single time I see it, for some reason, something about it pulls me away, even though I know they're amazing and what I said about the best combination of all this stuff. Ultimately, I don't care about the characters as much as I care about Harry, Ron, Hermione. And the progression, once you get to 6, 7, and 7 Part 2, I mean, it catches its stride. It really gets its swing. I kind of want to skip Dolores Umbridge, but Dolores Umbridge does something to me, even though I hate her and I hate what she does to the 5th movie when Harry's just pissed and she's the villain and I'm like, oh, fuck this. She does something to me that keeps me up at night that nobody in the MCU is even capable of doing to me. Maybe it's the actress. Maybe it's just her. But there is something in the series where the characters, the
You're
moments,
voting for Harry Potter because of
the
Dolores
world.
Umbridge.
I just
is that?
No. What I'm saying is, she is. Let me be clear. She is my least favorite villain, and yet I can't get her out of my fucking mind. There's something about the Harry Potter movies that they tattoo me. It's like I can't escape them. I can't get them out of my consciousness. God damn it. Even though I know they're not as good, even though I know the books are better, I just can't get it. I'm honestly just on every time.
Jeff goes to therapy.
Guys.
Jeff goes to, oh my God, imagine it. No, I'm doing therapy in public. Who needs therapy when you have a podcast every week?
All right. I'm going to do it. But, man, I feel so bad.
Look, if you vote for MCU, that's totally fine. It's just then you can go on your Harry Potter rant.
Oh, my God. Jesus fucking Christ.
Who thought this one would be harder than Lord of the Rings versus Mission Impossible?
No way, dude. No way. This one's harder. Also because of the next.
I knew this was going to be harder. I knew it.
This one is definitely
harder. They're just
harder.
so different, you guys. Like I can't. I'm just going to tell you where my head's at, just so everyone can know if whatever decision I make, just so all the listeners understand. I probably enjoy Harry Potter.
Yeah, we want you to take more time.
I probably enjoy Harry Potter more. If I'm being just personally. And that's a fine line, but it feels so wrong not voting for MCU because they've been so innovative with turning franchises into what we think of franchises now. Like they're the first ones to actually successfully do that. No one has ever created that arc with that forethought the way they did that. They're extremely reliable.
This is true.
In terms of their franchising, like the branding is so good. You're right, Dave. If you see a trailer for it, you're probably going to go take a fucking chance on it. Not because it came from a book that you know you love, but because you trust the brand. You trust the franchise. You trust the team.
So we're going to talk about MCU more in the next segment. We're going to talk about more in the MCU in the next segment. So go ahead and say goodbye to Harry Potter. Give us your happy trails. Let's put it in your bowl and smoke some Harry Potter.
I don't think I am. I think I'm voting.
What do you have to say about
Harry Potter, dude. Like, that's what I'm saying.
Holy shit, wait, right this second, I thought you were voting for MCU. That's not what I thought you were saying. I think I like
Harry Potter more, which is a shame. I just want to, this is a subjective thing. I'm going to go for Harry Potter just because I think I enjoy them more, even though it feels wrong, because I have so much respect for what MCU has done with franchises.
If everyone can leave me out of the hate mail, okay? Just
Is it because you read the Martin Scorsese essay? Is that why?
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's part of it.
Scorsese should shut the fuck up.
I do have some issues with that stuff. I'm going to watch MCU a million
just direct
more
movies
times.
and don't talk.
Dave, are we really about to get cut off in the next 24 seconds, or are we okay?
No. He's not.
We were just trying to make you make a decision.
Trying to make a decision.
Yeah, because this second section has been 40 minutes. This one battle head to head has been 40. I know I took 10 of it, but it's been 30 minutes since I.
This was a tough decision, you guys. I feel terrible. I just wanted to, before you guys made your decisions, I was going to say, I didn't know you were both going to vote so easily just before we started having that last conversation.
You knew Dave was going to vote
but
so
I was
easily.
going to say, I don't really give a shit.
I was on the fence
for a little
bit.
Shit. Honestly, any of these top 4 could have won for me, and I would have been like, that was really fun. We had a great time. Let's go watch them all again.
No, any of the top 3. Mission Impossible.
Yeah, that would have been a cool wild card. But anyway, I'm ashamed that we have to pick between these two. Please don't choose for yourself. Please make sure you go sit down and watch both of these. They're worth rewatches. I have so much fun.
It's only 30 films between the two.
Yeah.
I'm voting for Harry Potter. Jeff's voting.
Make your own decision.
Dave, I'm so sorry, dude.
Right.
Sorry, Dave.
No,
Dave, I'm sorry.
Damn it. God, I feel bad. Can we still go see them together? I want to go watch one together.
When we come back, we are going to do our So Long segment where we very quickly say goodbye to a whole shitload of franchises that we just cast off into the ethers. And then we're going to choose our final favorite, greatest, best franchise of all time between the Lord of the Rings saga and the Harry Potter saga.
Can I give a last sign off? Wait. Is the final goodbye? I am Iron Man.
You don't get to do that, you son of a bitch.
And we're back!
Oh! Oh my God, we're back.
We're back. Jeff just ate his microphone that doesn't exist.
Sorry, Dave.
Ripped it, dude, to pieces.
I can't wait to get my microphone back. It's going to be in a week or two. I'm going back to the city. I got my mask washed. I'm ready to go. I am so excited for this segment. So for all of our friends who have not been paying attention for our coronavirus franchise Faceoff, I'll reiterate very quickly. We all decided, because we used to have a podcast where we would watch new movies and compare them to old movies. So John, Dave, and I went to the movie theater in New York City during coronavirus in March of 2020 when the spread was very much on. Side note, I do not have antibodies. That is how well I disinfected my seats. But we went to the movie theater to watch The Invisible Man on the way back with Ben Affleck. Nobody saw either movie because quarantine hit. We decided to do this franchise. So what we did was we watched 16 film franchises, almost in their fucking entirety. I saw so many goddamn movies in this past fucking however many weeks. And then we decided to allow our audience to have a voice.
I'm going off grid. In which case I never want to see a screen again after this.
Oh my God. And then all of our audience said, how do you not have Bond in there? How do you not have Rocky? How do you not have Vacation? How do you not have You Pieces of Shit? How do you not have... We had somebody say The Thin Man, and we were like, oh. So anyway, just so everybody knows, we have paid attention to all of the franchises, and the answer that we are going to give very, very soon as to which is the greatest or best film franchise of all time, we have earned the right to crown this champion. It is still somewhat subjective, but it has been fought for with blurry eyes and many, many nights where we forced our partners to watch films that they did not want to watch. But now it is time for one of our most fun segments we have ever done on this podcast, which is a So Long segment where we, in one sentence, say so long to film franchises that we have spent literally hours and hours rewatching for this fucking podcast. Dave, cue the music. Let us go. So long, Bond, Indiana Jones, and Rocky. You weren't even on our list, and people were really fucking pissed about it. They were wrong and will always be wrong.
So long, DCU. Wait, this wasn't even there. Jeff, you fuck. Anyway, I look forward to seeing the movies you were supposed to have in you when they released the Snyder and Ayer cuts. And thank you for making Aquaman cool again.
So long, Vacation franchise. You wildcard bastard that my co-hosts Jeff and Dave supposedly loved so much, but voted out fucking immediately. May your franchise's reputation hold up better than your leading man's temper, career, and general approach to relationships.
So long, the Cornetto trilogy. You Brits never stood a chance as our 16 seed against the Lord of the Rings. And Americans have no idea who or what you are. But at least you can heal your wounds from zombie, local civilian vigilante, and robotic alien attacks with your national socialized healthcare and love of Simon Pegg, a.k.a. Benji from the Mission Impossible franchise.
Benji!
Look that up.
Benji!
So long, Austin Powers, our 15 seed. What can I say? You gifted us with spectacular opening dance numbers and took the entire spy movie genre to task with the same 6 jokes over and over
and baby.
Over.
So long, the Fast and the Furious franchise. Despite your teachings about family, my podcast brothers tossed you from our franchise finals like a ragtag bunch of cars and characters from the cargo hold of a special ops government plane, only this time without awesome GPS-controlled parachutes. Quarter mile at a time, motherfuckers.
That was cool.
So long, John Wick, our 13 seed. I voted for you over Toy Story. Dave voted for you and Toy Story, and he fucked up our whole bracket. The Keanu-sans is real. We at the pod prescribe you, Keanu Reeves, ice rest and a few blood transfusions and chicken soup before number 4 comes out in 2021, where we look forward to you defying everything we have ever learned about pain management.
So long, the Star Trek cinema franchise. You showed us a world where Cavalier captains shoot first and bang every alien they can find, where genetically augmented super soldiers can't think in 3 dimensions. Then you got cool and funny and became awesomely action-packed for about 8 movies. You also introduced us to the concept of that which shall not be named way before Harry Potter made it cool by releasing Star Trek Nemesis. P.S. No more motorbikes, okay?
So long, Die Hard. Somehow, John McClane survived a plethora of explosions, countless clips of machine gun fire, and genius German mercenary brothers, R.I.P. Alan, and yet, it is here where he will finally and truly meet his end, at the hands of 3 drunk dicks who wish they were John motherfucking McClane! Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Yeah.
So long, the Terminator franchise, our original 10 seed. We thought you'd make a bigger dent in this bracket because we hadn't rewatched Terminator 3 in a while. Or Salvation. Or Genesis. Dark Fate was cool, but it was way too fucking late. Time for you to hasta la vista yourself back to the 80s where liquid metal and conflicting timelines were cool, and Arnold showed cock.
Cock! He showed cock!
I can't follow cock.
Dave, you're up.
So long, you bastard. So long, Mission Impossible. You gave us a rich world where people have to look up your names to remember them. And everyone except the little guy is as disposable as my mama's sushi chopsticks.
Fuck you, Dave. So long, Jurassic Park, our 8th seed. You had me at the ripple in the cup. And though we've had tons of fun celebrating your imaginary, death-filled theme parks, you've somehow lost your magic along the way, and instead seem to have taken on the intentions of a scared, money-grubbing lawyer hiding on a toilet like a little bitch right before being devoured by a T-Rex of constructive criticism. Please, please get good again.
Jurassic Park in the US, 2 things that opened way too soon before they were ready.
Please,
So long, The Dark
please.
Knight. From snub to quarterfinalist 7 seed. Your first 2 movies are fucking awesome. Well, your first 1 3/4 movies and final 1/4 movies are so awesome. We've had 3 Jokers in 12 years, all because of you. If only you could force every person of consequence to take their Rachels into the sewers of your heart before rewatching The Dark Knight Rises.
So long, Back to the Future. I've carried your story with me for a long portion of my life, and your notion of time travel and all the hidden surprises were a constant delight. I live with a chalkboard in my living room just because of you. But now you've probably gone back and erased those of us that voted you out, making you the #1 franchise, so congratulations on your win.
So long, Toy Story. Your coming-of-age antics, your nostalgic wit, and your dramatic accuracy will live on forever in our hearts and minds, but probably not on our TV screens. However, I will be forever grateful to you for driving our co-host, Jeff, absolutely fucking mad. He fucking loathes your premise. He fucking hates it.
The toy wrote a note to a human. So long.
Okay, move on.
So
Let it
so
go.
long,
Let it go.
Jeff, let it go.
So long, Star Wars. Our original 3 seed. Some people think our entire list is bullshit since you won't win. Remind those fools, J.J. Abrams tried to make you forget Episode 8 ever existed. Way to stick the landing, Jedis.
There's an Episode 8?
International fans fully gave up on you to the extent that Frozen 2 out-earned each of the final 2 Star Wars films. Wow. We side with Olaf, who gave the franchise 0 spends.
So long, the Godfather trilogy. You know what? Fuck the Godfather trilogy. There, I said
you're right.
it.
2
Fuck
movies
you,
are
Dave.
great. Yeah.
Fuck you, Dave.
Fuck him right in the ear.
Oh my god.
So long, MCU. I feel like such an asshole for not passing you on to the finals, but you made $20 billion at the box office, including 4 of the top 10 highest grossing films. Now you can get back to what you're best at, pretending Disney is for adults since they can drink at Epcot. That's it.
Da, 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 da! Guys, that was sad. Saying goodbye
you
to
ready?
all these wonderful
I know.
wonderful franchises.
I know. R.I.P.
Uh-huh.
Are you ready to go to the finals?
Hell yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah!
Fucking do it, dude.
Dave, any
Fucking-
final,
yeah, this is
Dave,
it,
any
baby.
final thoughts?
Oh no, I think we've said enough. Yep, let's get on to the
All
finals.
right, Lord of the
I want
Rings.
to say real fast. This was
Harry
what
Potter.
I wanted to manifest this the entire fucking time, dude. I wanted it to come down to Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter this whole fucking
But
time.
Harry Potter was our
Over here.
6th seed. You didn't speak up when we made it our 6th seed.
Dude, I'm just happy we didn't do Star Trek versus Star Wars because I did not want to engage
Dave
in a
really did
conversation.
not want Star Trek versus
Yeah.
Star Wars.
We basically
Also,
just
neither
chose
did
the
John
other
and I.
one though. We basically just chose the fantasy version as opposed to the sci-fi
Yeah, we
version.
really did.
Like we were
Yeah.
Lord of the
Right.
Rings versus Harry
But there's-
Potter. Come on, Too many cloaks, too many hoods.
To our fans that like Rocky and Bond, though, like there's no way that MCU is not the next one out, right? It's like it's Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, MCU, and then there's like a little bit of wiggle room, but there's a gap before you get to the Bond and Rocky and all those other series that everybody else talks about, right? Like we
I don't
did
know,
the
I'd
right
have
thing
to watch
here.
all those other Rockies to judge it properly.
No, just watch Rocky 5 and you know you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
Watch Rocky 3 and go, oh, you're right. Creed is cool, but come on. Okay, so here we are. This is it. I mean, look, there's a lot of podcasts out there about how awesome the Lord of the Rings are. There's a lot about Harry Potter out there, including theme parks. We're going to try really hard to not talk about the books. We're talking just...
And they're all coming for us after this.
You know what the worst part about this is? There's no fucking way that Harry Potter, specifically J.K. Rowling, didn't learn all the tricks from from the Lord of the Rings books and movies. There's just no way. The books came out, the first movie, The Sorcerer's Stone, came out this...
I think the movies made it their own. I think that, like,
I hope so, Dave.
From Lord of the Rings.
I hope so.
But I'm pretty sure the movies, as far as, like, they took from the story, and as far as the actual movie filmmaking techniques, I'm pretty sure they made their own.
But to be fair, they started with the same year. By the way, this is very important. Harry Potter 1, The Sorcerer's Stone, or the Philosopher's Stone, if you're from a very specific part of the world known as England, which apparently has mattered a lot to history, even though you're in the fog in the north. But, okay. 2001.
We love you, England.
2001, Lord of the Rings #1. The
Fellowship of the Ring.
The Fellowship of the Ring. And the first Harry Potter movie, The Sorcerer's Stone, 2001. They both came out the same year. Now, Harry Potter, I talked about a lot in the Harry Potter series. Christopher Columbus directed, who, by the way, directed Mrs. Doubtfire. He directed both Home Alone. So he knows how to make a kid, fun, adventure movie. And obviously he had grown a lot by then, too. But Lord of the Rings was going for something more, something that had never been done before. Harry Potter grew into that. The depth, the darkness, I mean, they almost fired Daniel Radcliffe for growing up too fast because the movies couldn't keep up with the fact that all of a sudden they looked 20, but they were supposed to be 13. So there's so fucking much going on in There's Daniel so much Radcliffe going on in these movies.
He still doesn't look 20 years old.
No, he's short. He's short. But okay, Ron, fine. In the fourth movie, Ron is 6'4", all right, and he's supposed to be 13.
What was their alternative?
No. I know. No, the alternative is Lord of the Rings, which just did it all in sequence.
I mean, in it Part 2, they de-aged the kids digitally, but they didn't have the technology then. So.
We know, Dave. We know. But here we are. We're talking about the best franchises of all time. So my real question that I'm asking here is, does Harry Potter cut too many corners? Because Lord of the Rings went for it off the bat. And in going for it, they missed what Harry Potter was able to do, which is self-correct along the way. Which is right around 4, 5, 6, Harry Potter went, we want it to be darker. We want it to be more grown up. Even though Harry can't do good magic, he cannot. Harry cannot do good magic by the age of 4. Voldemort can literally, like, look at Harry and all of a sudden flames and ghosts and mist happen. And Harry can say Expelliarmus. Oh, and he can do a Patronus charm. But they decided, they were like, we want the themes to be deep. Lord of the Rings had it all laid out ahead of time, so they couldn't self-correct. So the question here, in looking at these two franchises, knowing very well that Harry Potter derives much of its plot, much of its characters, Dumbledore is Gandalf, right? Harry is Frodo. It derives much of its content from the Lord of the Rings. Did Harry Potter rise to the occasion? Did it self-correct in such a way that at this pinnacle time of technology and filmmaking, did it supersede what Lord of the Rings did before it even fucking started, which is their one goal was beginning to end best adventure story of all time on screen? Dave and John, that's the question I asked for you. Proceed.
I mean, the thing to take into consideration is by the time Harry Potter had hit the ground running, Lord of the Rings was done.
Yeah, okay.
They told their story.
Right. That's like, my point. So
they didn't need the 3 movie warm-up.
Yeah. But they might have, because the first 2 Harry Potter movies may or may not be 2 of the 3 least, successful
Lord of the
critical
Rings.
movies.
He's saying Lord of the Rings didn't need 3 movies to warm up.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Lord of the Rings just came in, did their 3 movies, done.
Yeah, no.
Harry Potter did Harry Potter 2, Harry Potter 3. They started to like find their footing a little, and then when they hit 4, they went dark. And from my opinion, that was where they really swung into it. But again, they're at the mercy of the books as well, so they're also at the mercy of their source material.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to put the source material to the side. That's the challenge we've given
ourselves. No, I don't think. I don't know if that's. I feel like we have to include that a little bit, because I think we've already complained about it in multiple episodes now. There is some stuff that is left out of the adaptations, the film adaptations of Harry Potter, it's from the books, and you don't get that same sensation of confusion if you haven't watched, if you haven't read the Harry Potter books, as if you haven't read the Lord of the Rings books. I do, don't get me wrong, I do remember walking out of the theatrical version of Lord of the Rings when I had not read the books yet, and knowing that there were things that I didn't have all the details on. I had that sense. It wasn't like the extended versions definitely are much more truthful adaptations of the books. But I think the theatrical cuts, even if you're only watching those of Lord of the Rings, are better adaptations. They satisfy a little bit more of that enigmatic kind of macro thematic storytelling stuff that Tolkien was trying to get at. They don't sacrifice any of that. Whereas I feel like Harry Potter, because it's so rooted in mystery, there's so much mystery in the storytelling that if you don't have all the details, you feel a little left out. And I know I said this on our first Harry Potter episode, but I remember seeing them with my friends and family members when they were coming out before I'd read the books, and I did feel left out, and not in a fun way. And I still enjoyed the movies, but I remember thinking, there's no way you can enjoy these as much if you have not read the books. And I got obsessed with the Lord of the Rings, theatrical and extended versions, before I read the book. So I feel like there's something in terms of adapting a really well-known, iconic series. I still feel like there's no question. I think Lord of the Rings did it better. And to what you said initially about the did they need to self-correct? The answer is no. They didn't need to self-correct because they made good movies from the beginning. They knew what they were doing. It was cohesive. It was one of a kind. Let's put it this way. Let me ask you guys this. This is a fun little hypothesis, or a fun little theoretical question. Do you think they will ever remake the Lord of the Rings series?
They are. They're literally remaking them next year.
No, they're not. No, they're not,
that's
dude.
dealing with the Age of Man. It's not dealing with Lord of the Rings.
That's not the series at all. That is not the same story.
My answer is yes.
It's a massive hundreds of year prequel.
My answer is yes, and they're going to remake the Harry Potters too. But Amazon is going to. They bought the Lord of the Rings catalog for so much money, and they're going to start with the Age of Man, but they're going to end up remaking the Lord of the Rings for sure. Yeah, that's what I think.
I don't think they will. All right. Well, you just destroyed my theoretical little analogy there. I was going to say that I feel like
preemptive.
I was going to say the opposite. I was going to say I feel like I could see them eventually remaking Harry Potter because of the point you made, Jeff, that you kind of need the miniseries. Like they shortchanged themselves with the way that they made those movies. Every single person who is a huge Harry Potter fan wishes the movies were a little bit longer and had all the details in them. And I don't think anyone who, it doesn't matter whether or not you've seen Lord of the Rings, I don't think anyone who watches those extended versions especially has ever seen movies that include that much story in them. And yet the pacing is compelling enough that you don't feel like you're watching something that's way too long. It's extremely rewatchable. And as Dave said, from the first time you see it, I still think it is the pinnacle of fantasy secondary world storytelling. I don't think anyone has ever come close to building that kind of world.
Game of Thrones was so close, but then it failed. So I'm gonna back up. I'm just gonna say that it was so close.
Yeah, I can't wait for the book to come out so we get all the backstory of what happened at the end.
I might agree with you, Jeff, but it's not a movie, so it's not the same medium. So that's not fair.
Yeah,
True.
Yeah.
We could only compare one season of Game of Thrones to all of Lord of the Rings.
We did agree to shit on Game of Thrones at least once every episode, though.
Fuck the ending of Game of Thrones. Can we all at least say that?
But
we all drink because we're all thinking.
But it was close in that world building. My question to you is, because Harry had to cut corners in order to get the books into movies, obviously, and because Lord of the Rings had to cut corners in order to get books into movies, even though it did a better job of it, I would say, especially in 3 books to get into a full franchise versus Harry had 8 movies to get that full beginning to end Harry narrative into one franchise, is the only answer. Is it like Lord of the Rings versus series? Is the only way to top Lord of the Rings series? That would obviously make Lord of the Rings the obvious answer, and the only way that Harry Potter could ever top Lord of the Rings is if they both moved into series formats and we were able to get into the format. I suppose that is an argument for a different time, but for this particular moment,
it's an argument for a different time. We are dealing with movies that have been made.
But we're at this point now where we're now talking about these movies for the 4th time each, because we're in the finals. We did regular, and then we did the round of 8, and the round of 4, and then the round of 1. So we've now talked about these movies 4 times. Is Lord of the Rings that good, or are there some seams in the cracks? Because Harry Potter obviously has some things that they skipped over, but maybe they skipped over them for all the right reasons. I really...
There are definitely some seams in the cracks.
Dave, talk about it. Say what you want to say about these 2 movies.
I mean, Lord of the Rings drew a lot of criticism for skipping over the whole Barrow White sequence, and a lot of other things in the beginning of the book that begins the journey. But again, I understand why that decision was made, because the Barrow White sequence doesn't really advance the story. It's just an experience that this character has. It doesn't advance the story as a whole, and that's one of the pinnacles of screenwriting, where you go through every single scene, and if none of your characters have like a plus or minus at the end of that scene, then that scene is superfluous and can go.
Yeah.
So like if they haven't advanced, like if they haven't grown, or if they haven't lost something, or if there hasn't been some conflict and or set up or a resolution, then there's no point in that scene being in your screenplay. Yeah. And I feel like that's what happened to a lot of the stuff that like happened in Lord of the Rings that got taken out. I feel like when he did crop, he cropped well. My issue with Lord of the Rings is like on rewatchability, you really get the chance to pick apart some of the effects and stuff like that, and it's obvious that some of them were outsourced, not to Weta, to like companies that were like at the point the budget was running thin, and like they outsourced this keying shot to someone else, and it doesn't look quite right. But again,
does it get in the way?
It's a thing where it's not overly distracting. It's just like it's noticeable on like your 8th rewatch.
Do you feel
that way about like Star Wars though? Like early Star Wars, kind of in a similar way. Like you kind of forgive it, don't you, Jeff? What the fuck is wrong with your camera?
That's twice Jeff's got drunk and fallen over in this podcast. Stop pre-gaming.
Falling all over the place. Jeff, fix your camera.
Jeff.
It's my iPad, not my camera. My iPad is safe. I'm going to be able to go on with my life. Thank you so much for being concerned.
I know what you mean.
Did you mistake that for concern? Fuck that.
Can't we say that? Don't you think we can? Isn't that? I guess the thing I'm uncomfortable about saying that for criticism is that is an inherent criticism about any movie that has come out in the past. Is that some effects are not going to? They're going to be a little distracting. Isn't that just the nature of a movie coming out in the past?
It is, although there's not a lot of things I can fault effects wise and like shot wise in Harry Potter.
Even the car flying and getting in the tree and shit. That tree looks pretty pretty CGI when that tree catches it.
That worked for me. I mean, it's a moving tree.
It's a movie tree.
Yeah, it worked. The whole lot of that worked for me.
All right, well then, how about is that because there's like a whimsical element to Harry Potter that kind of forgives the heightened realism of
there's an
Harry
absolute fantasy element. Yeah.
All right, so then for me it comes down to this. It's kind of I don't know, I feel kind of lame saying I still love Harry Potter's fun, you guys, but we are talking about storytelling. And for me it doesn't compare. I think Harry Potter, like you said, it takes so much influence. It's not her fault. It's not like she was trying to copy him, but he had so much impact on the creation of this genre. And I still think it holds up. I think Lord of the Rings is a better story. I think he introduces more obstacles to his characters. I think there are more themes to be lifted. It's more malleable in the eyes of the reader. I think she shortchanged herself in a lot of the things that she did for Harry along the way. And she pipelined him into a very specific path that is still compelling and still really fun. I just don't think there's as much opportunity for complicated storytelling. I don't know if that's because she was writing
She
it
wrote it for the
aimed
books.
at
She wrote it for the
children
books.
growing up.
She wrote it for the
But
books.
but I mean, she could have done. I don't know. I feel like the Lord of the Rings story is better.
I'm with you.
So-
She wrote the books
Right.
in such a way that it didn't matter that they did no magic by the end of the movies. There's no way he beats Voldemort at the end of the movies. There's no way. He can move shit with his mind, and in the books, maybe you can yada yada that and say he can Expelliarmus or stupefy Voldemort at the end. But this is a guy who literally brought himself back to life because he split his soul in 7, and Harry knows how to do a Patronus charm. You know what I mean? It's like, so it is the truth of Harry Potter. So forgiving all of the other steps along the way that the books, elfish welfare, the way that they heighten characters to make up for the fact that, like, for instance, Dobby gives Harry gillyweed in the 4th book. In the movie, they make it Neville just to make Neville more important. Neville's the herbology nerd now, and they're growing Neville's character in the movies. That is a fine film adjustment. That is like, okay, I'm with you. It's back to Game of Thrones. It's like,
Also,
okay, sure.
yes.
It's like that
Yeah.
totally works. You can make the shortcuts have value in the long run, but you have to follow through. And in the end, if they don't understand dark magic, then the way that then McGonagall has to defeat Voldemort, or Snape has to defeat Voldemort, or you know what I mean? It's like they
Yeah.
can't
So
shortcut
we've
that kind of stuff.
we've gone way long, so we're all gonna have to make a decision here.
Oh no, wait.
No, but
Let
this
me
is
say
so
one more thing.
important,
This is what you're talking about, though. I feel like this is why Tolkien is a better storyteller. And I heard myself just say that, but come on, she's in good fucking company here. I'm comparing her to J.R. Tolkien. That's pretty fucking huge.
We're in the finals.
At the end of each book of Harry Potter, everything's okay for sure. So you have that sense that everything's going to be okay. And then guess what? Gryffindor gets the fucking house cup every fucking year. He just says
in the
like,
book
oh, they
it
get
works,
50
in the
more
movie it
points.
doesn't work.
Tolkien understood, and there's a line in the movie that I don't think is in the books when it's Pippin, right? Pippin and
Mary?
No, it's Pippin and Gandalf when they're talking about is this the end, and that they're at the Minas Tirith, and he says, "Oh, this is not an end," you know, and the far green country and everything. But before that, before the war starts, Pippin's scared to go into battle, and he says, "Is there any hope, Gandalf?" And Gandalf says, "There was never much hope, only a fool's hope."
Yeah.
And the sense you get at the end of number 1 and number 2, and even number 3, that's how good it is. It still comes at the end of the whole story, is that the only way this will ever be completed is by faith in each other, not because the author is going to make you feel safe at the end of each book. You feel more and more hopeless with the facts at the end of each of those Lord of the Rings movies. And it requires you, the audience member, to want to come back. So when Aragorn finally says, for Frodo, and they finally charge for having no idea if Frodo is still alive, it's the epitome of that kind of storytelling. J.K. doesn't consistently achieve that. There are moments where you feel hopeless in Harry Potter, and you really do feel like he's so alone, and the kids are alone. But I don't know. I think Lord of the Rings nails that, and that's why he's the master. And it really comes down to story for me. I think Lord of the Rings is just a better story, and they're better made movies.
I think it really comes down to that we didn't include The Hobbit in this series, because Lord of the Rings is a perfect trilogy. Please watch all 3 extended editions in sequence. I suggest 1 per night. Say you have 3 days in a row where you have some time, watch all 3 in a row. They are the best sequential fantasy storytelling of all time by far. It is an incredible franchise. The Hobbit tried to copycat it. They sort of are a different franchise, but I mean, it all comes back to the same legacy. J.R.R. Tolkien.
It's source material, though, isn't it? That's why The Hobbit's aren't as good.
But they
Source
did it on
material's not
film.
as good.
No, but they did it. Yes. Yeah, but they did it.
Right?
They did it.
I mean, I haven't seen the extended of The Hobbit yet, so
It's
the jury's out for me, but
it's just how we
I'll
can
probably watch that this week.
We keep joking about the Fantastic Beasts. It's the same shit. The source material is just not as fucking good. There's no way those movies could be as good. Because...
but this is a film podcast, and the films of the Lord of the Rings are the best for sure. There's only 3. It just requires about 11 hours of viewing. Dave, final thoughts, but we got to wrap this up. But Dave, we'll bring it home.
So we're going Lord of the Rings?
I'm going Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's 2. I'm going Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings. It's Lord of the Rings for the win.
God damn it.
It took us
Lord of the Rings.
12
Frodo.
weeks to say what we
you.
already
For
knew.
Frodo.
Thank you,
God
Peter
damn it.
Jackson. Thank you, Andy Serkis.
Oh my
Thank you,
God.
everyone involved in that film.
Andy Serkis, I
Like,
can't believe he can
Andy-
still talk after.
I
doing
mean,
this movie.
it gave us Andy. Like he is the epitome now of motion capture technology, and now has also moved on to being a phenomenal actor and director.
He is the godfather of mocap, and also, by the way, the Jungle Book movie he made was fucking awesome. Good job, Andy.
Yeah,
It was fun. That was really cool. Guys,
Check it
Lord of
out.
the Rings.
So
This was
That's the
intense.
end.
That was this. How do you guys feel? This was it. We just did. I think. I just did the math, and I think I totaled it up to. I'm pretty sure. How many did we just watch? 101 movies. I think we just watched 101
I
movies.
mean,
over
we
this
have
entire
seen
time.
them all. I didn't rewatch all of them. But
I've wasted my life.
Yeah.
How many Terminator movies are there? That was the other one I wasn't positive about. Are there?
Six.
2.
Two, Dave.
That's what I thought.
There's
No, I thought
three,
there
and then
were
there's
6.
Genesis, and then there's Genesis, and there's Salvation.
I
and
know what
there's,
they
there's
are, but they
Salvation,
don't
then
exist.
Genesis, and then whatever the 2019 one was.
Oh shit.
6. There's
Okay.
6 Terminator movies. There's a lot of
All right,
movies.
there's 6 minus 5. All right, then we did
No,
96
solve for X.
movies.
Guys.
96 movies.
Dave,
Wow.
So our original format was talking about contemporary movies, comparing them to movies of the film catalog, and then by the time we were drunk, we would talk about a movie that needed some love. For example, our first movie was
Yes.
Cats. It was really fucking hard for us. Dave,
That was I got so no. Actually, I didn't get drunk. You got drunk. in
I
that
got
one.
really drunk.
Hey,
There
I
are
got a
new
criticism.
movies.
We got
Jeff-
to Hellboy. I got smashed.
Jeff, did you
Hellboy
watch
was
Cats
good.
again this past week?
I didn't. We made it like 30. I told everybody, and I said, "I'm telling you, it's not even."
Why did
funny,
you do?
Beth.
Yeah, you did it, didn't you? You watched Cats again this week.
We
What's
were
wrong with
with
you? What did you
cats, so we were
That's-
watching the movie
you've
with
seen-
pet cats,
you've-
watching cats.
You've now seen Cats more than me, and I came
It
out
was.
approving.
It's not
of
even
Cats.
funny bad. Like honestly, like we did a good podcast about it. It was funny, but like the movie itself, it's not even funny bad. It was. By the time they eat the cockroaches, like I almost ate a cockroach. You know what I mean? Like it was so bad. So
Yeah.
we are going to, because there's no new movies coming out yet in the coronavirus age, we're going to take one movie and compare it to a movie of the film catalog, then do a film franchise. Then do a redemption movie. So that is 3 movies we're going to discuss next week. Thank you so much for joining us for the entire coronavirus franchise face-off. Dave,
This has been fun.
what are we going to do for
This
the
has
new
been
movie? There's no new movies coming out, so what are we going to do?
Well, we're gonna activate a time machine.
Oh, interesting. Back to the Future,
Great
Avengers.
What went
Terminator.
Yes, the one movie I didn't shit on during our memorial
No, you
sequence.
didn't vote for it.
Yeah,
Fuck.
and I did, but it just in the end, no. But what we've done is I've got a random number generator here.
Yeah.
And we're going to generate a random year. And we're going to pick a movie that was in the cinema at that year because we can't go to the cinema right now till they reopen. So
we don't have
let's go
antibodies.
back
That's
in
not
time.
safe. A random.
We're gonna do it within the month, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The month of
any year.
the year which is
Yeah.
2006.
So let's read off. So some of the movies that came out in June 2006 are Cars.
Okay. Good. Hey, good. Interesting
Tokyo-
franchise we didn't talk about.
Yeah.
Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift,
We talked about
Nacho
that.
Libre,
We did talk.
Talk-
We sort of
Nacho
talked about
Libre's
it.
funny.
Nacho Libre. Oh,
Garfield.
Garfield, A Tale of Two Kitties,
Okay.
Waist Deep,
we did-
Click,
Yeah.
Superman Returns,
Yeah.
The Devil Wears Prada,
Oh no.
An Inconvenient Truth, and
No,
The Puffy
no, no.
Chair. So those are a good
And-
amount of the
oh,
movies.
the Omen remake came out too.
The
that year.
Omen, don't forget
watched
about
the
the
Omen
Omen
remake.
remake.
It tried
that
to be a shot for
nobody
shot, but it
saw.
wasn't a shot for shot.
Or do forget about the Omen
Original.
remake.
Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah, I
Dave.
do
The
forget
original
about
Omen
that.
was really great. I vote
so
for.
now- Yeah, we're gonna vote in front of you guys. We're gonna vote live each week. We're gonna pick the number and then vote for the movie.
Okay, I vote for either Cars, Click, or I'm missing one. There's something I'm missing. I'm not ready yet. You guys, what do you think?
You're missing Superman Returns. That's what you're missing.
I'm missing that one. You're right.
You want
Correct. I
Superman
am missing that one.
Returns.
John?
I'm gonna vote for motherfucker. I'm actually gonna vote for The Devil Wears Prada.
Wow. Dave? Devil Wears Prada is fine.
You know what? Let's do Devil Wears Prada.
Fuck yeah, Devil Wears Prada. This is so awesome.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
Some really
I feel
good-
like we can
really good
throw
performances.
we can throw in a was it really that bad for Superman Returns?
Hell yeah, I'm down for that.
Superman
When he
Returns?
catches the airplane, it's pretty cool, but that's it. That's it.
All right.
That's it.
Yeah.
It was
Wow.
fun. Just one last
Glad
call to
you're here.
action. Everybody get out there and watch those fucking movies. All those franchises are great. I had a wonderful time. I don't
We
regret
had
our
an
choices.
awesome
I'm
time.
glad we
We had
saw
an
'em.
awesome time with them. We really did. We had fun.
Yeah, there were like 3 that were bad, so just like it's good odds.
So many had some good movies and franchise fucked them up, so it's not our fault.
I'm looking forward to next week. That was a fun era. That just happened. Corona franchise face off. Thank you all so much for listening.
Everybody stay safe out there.